Hello, welcome back to the Neurokind podcast. I'm very excited today. We're talking about the wonderful world and gifts of the neurodiverse brain. This is all positivity. I'm Hannah McLaughlin, business owner, autistic, ADHD, professional collector of hobbies, half-finished products, and 87 tabs open on my laptop. And with me is the beautiful and incredible and amazing Dr. Dom. Dommy?
Hey, I'm a psychiatrist with 20 years experience. I'm autistic and I've got a pretty decent dose of attentional differences in there as well. I'm mum to a neurodivergent child, and I'm someone who can quite happily deep dive into topics across neuroscience, psychology, philosophy, and metaphysical science all at once, at the same time as forgetting basic human needs like lunch. And just to follow on, I
Yeah.
still haven't found my car keys after last episode.
They're still gone.
They're still gone. Well, they're still in the chaos somewhere.
Bye-bye, car keys.
I hope to see them again sometime.
Bye-bye. So today's episode is one I've wanted to do for ages, because if you Google autism or ADHD, what do you get? Deficits, challenges, it's symptoms, it's problems, it supports needs. And we're not saying these don't exist. They absolutely exist. But that's half the story.
And today we're going to be talking about the other half. The view you get when you shift the lens away from just pathologizing neurodivergence and step into that wonderful world of the gifts of having a neurodiverse brain.
Yes.
And look, we're not looking at toxic positivity. That's not going to help anything. Or
No.
pretending that life with a neurodivergent brain isn't hard at times.
It is.
But we want to explore something that's equally true, that neurodivergent brains contribute extraordinary things to humanity
Preach.
and ordinary everyday things to the people around them. And any parent of a neurodivergent child can describe the joy we get seeing the different way our kid is experiencing a world when they just dart off when they've noticed something that nobody else would have seen.
That's
Look, mummy, look, mummy.
That's
Yes.
so true.
Okay, but to start off, let's just clear up why the view out there is so negative.
Ugh.
Because something I just found out, which is incredible that,
I
it's just been a
know.
recent discovery, is that autism was actually first described in the 1920s
Yep.
by a Russian female psychiatrist. 20 years.
Women, I love
20
you.
years before Kanner and Asperger, who've previously kind of been recognized as the first people to
I'm going to
describe it.
hypothesize that they stole her work. Could this be accurate? I don't know.
There's a lot of debate about that area.
So we're just debating. I'm just giving my personal opinion. No one try and sue me for defamation. But my opinion is they stole her work.
So we're talking, and I'm going to give it a go saying her name. I apologize for my Russian, but Grunya Efimovna Sukhareva.
Beautiful.
And, one of the things that I've just got the paper in front of me by David Scher, looking at, the art, her 1926 article is, I'm quoting from this paper, is distinguished by its sympathetic and empathetic tone. She focused on the incremental successes that children made in development during their admission to her hospital. She had a hospital school, she called it.
Of course she did, because women are
Yep.
superior doctors and physicians and observers of life than men.
Yes.
Again, just my personal opinion.
So she stressed in her case descriptions the talents and the intellectual gifts. She made notes of the deeply emotional experiences and how attached these children were to their family.
Now, I realize she's no longer with us, but I'd just like to say shout out to this
Amazing
woman. Shout out to this woman.
Amazing woman.
Asperger, you're a dick. That's
Not the only person to say that. So she had this positive view of the ability of children to adapt successfully if afforded favourable conditions. Again, I'm quoting straight from this paper.
From the
I've got it in
paper,
front of
yeah.
me. And how much is that exactly what we're now working on and looking at? When
Can
we
I
think
give the
about
most
neurodivergence
obvious,
paradigm?
stupid example is that if you pot a plant in the wrong soil, it will
Yep.
die.
Yep.
If you pot a plant in the right soil, in the right environment, it'll flourish and be brilliant.
Yep.
It's the easiest
clear.
analogy to think
So
about.
clear.
Give that plant the right soil,
Yep.
the right opportunities, the
Yeah.
right sunlight.
And Sukhareva, the other incredible piece of information is she wrote a second paper about women.
Yes, girl.
So back in the 1920s, at that stage, she was putting forward that the rates were, very similar picture between the two. Some of the differences that we see in emotional regulation and types of special interests.
What does this tell you? That she's smarter than all the men. Yeah,
And
correct.
she's basically describing what is our current modern concept of what autism is. Amazing woman. So grateful for everything she's
We are
done.
so grateful for everything she's done, and we are less grateful for the men that stole her work and then ignored the empathy that she displayed. Anyway, let's get into our first segment. Why different brains exist. So this is my favorite question for you, Domi. Why do different brains exist? Guys, I'm flipping paper. I'm so sorry if you can hear it in the background. Why haven't autism and ADHD disappeared in the biosphere?
And that's a really important scientific question, because generally, if a trait is entirely disadvantaged from an
Yep.
evolutionary perspective, we'd expect it to get less common.
It goes
We
away.
are not seeing that. We've seen autism and ADHD throughout human history across all cultures.
Yep.
And if anything, at the moment, we're seeing an increase
Yep.
in frequency.
So this suggests that different neurotypes are doing something useful for biodiversity.
Exactly. And increasingly, the question out there is whether neurodiversity is actually, a really important human strength. And that capacity to detect novel novel threats early.
Yep.
Generating unconventional solutions.
Yep.
That's where resilience
Yep.
to a community come in.
Yep.
And just think about it. If you imagine a tribe where everybody thinks exactly the same.
Yeah, that tribe's dead.
Hey, it's a good analogy, at the moment, because if nobody notices anything different, if no one questions assumptions, explores new territory, that is not a resilient group. And what
It's
is
not an
resilient?
expanding
It's the
group.
capacity to respond when changes or disruption comes along and return or grow beyond the prior state of functioning.
Do you think that the meerkat that stands up and is looking around for predators is neurodiverse?
You'd have to wonder, wouldn't you?
Well, I'm curious.
Oh, now you've got me thinking about neurodiverse animals.
It would absolutely exist.
Oh, totally.
Of course. It would.
Especially with what we're arguing.
Okay. I'm going off piste. I'm so sorry.
But let's just be really clear about what we're saying here. We are not saying that the neurodivergent brain is superior in any way to the neurotypical brain.
There is no such thing as a superior brain or a superior person. That's my personal belief.
Well, that's where neurodivergent social justice. It helps us be aware of the problems in thinking that way, and brings in that deep understanding of what's lost when cooperation turns into competition and we start ending up with vertical hierarchies.
Which is something that notoriously neurodiverse people are very opposed to.
Absolutely. See straight through them.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a superior person or a superior brain. I believe that, we all have inalienable human rights and equity and equality just by virtue of being human beings.
And that leads to cooperation and connection. What more could you ask for?
Exactly. You want to start by talking about the pattern hunters.
Yes. So now we're going to go into the
Autism.
different ways in which, the different strengths that we see in neurodiversity.
Yeah.
And one of them is pattern recognition. So there's a book by Simon Baron-Cohen, got it right here. It's called The Pattern Seekers. And in there, he's exploring, having a look at this, idea, because autistic brains are exceptional at noticing details, noticing relationships between things, creating systems and structures,
Yep.
things that other brains might miss.
Yeah. Yeah. I notice if a lamp has been moved 3 centimeters,
3 centimeters?
2 centimeters. If there's anything different, I will be looking around the room, analyzing what's changed in the room since I last left.
That pattern recognition.
And I used to play
Attention
tricks.
to detail.
I used to play these tricks on my mum where I would move something a few centimeters. She'd notice.
Yeah.
She would notice.
And recent research is consistently demonstrating that there is enhanced perceptual processing in the autistic brain. What does that actually mean?
Yeah.
It's a greater bandwidth set for incoming information.
Yep.
And this means that the autistic people are often noticing information that others simply just don't even register.
Yeah. And it's not just noticing, it's remembering I can remember conversations from 15, 20 years ago, like word for word, line by line. Um, it does make me really good with arguing with people. I'll bring it back. I'm that petty bitch that's like 18 years ago, you said this.
Okay, next one. Special interests
My
are human
favorite.
superpowers.
My favorite.
Look, I really desperately wish people understood more about the special
Yes.
interests because they're often treated as something strange or excessive. And look, we're trying to put a really positive slant on today, but look, I just have to include what the current DSM wording is for this
Because
area.
it's harmful.
And in our current diagnostic manual, special interests are described as being highly restricted, fixated interests that are abnormal in intensity or focus.
They might be for me abnormal in intensity or focus.
Different?
Different.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's different from the norm. I will really get into it and really
Yeah.
deep dive, but it's not highly restricted. It's not it's not, there's nothing weird about it.
And that description just doesn't include, somebody who's got extensive lived experience of special interests. I can just talk about the
Yes.
joy and the passion they bring to my life.
Yes.
But how contagious that passion can be
Absolutely
as
is.
well.
And between two neurodiverse people who want to just deep dive on each other's special interests, it's actually heaven. When you can just like special interest dump on each other.
Oh,
It's
so much
amazing.
fun. You learn so much.
And also, meanwhile, human civilization was largely built by people becoming completely obsessed with things.
And the same mechanism that creates that deep interest and that deep diving into things often allows a development of expertise.
Yep.
So the scientists, the researchers, the engineers, the musicians.
Yes.
How much did that exceptionality come about? Because they just couldn't stop thinking about it.
Absolutely.
How much are you doing neurokind in your sleep at the moment?
I don't really dream that much, but
No.
I fall asleep thinking about it. But I will tell you this, that I woke up from anesthesia.
Yeah.
I don't remember this at all, but they told me I was talking about it. So I'm like, what? They're like, oh, yeah.
I can be hanging out the washing and ping, suddenly there's
Yeah.
another way of looking at something that we're working on.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's keep moving on to ADHD. So
Mm.
if autism is about the depth, then ADHD is about possibility. Sorry, I just
Yes.
grabbed Hannah's part, but
No, go for it.
yeah. And it's that divergent thinking, that out of this box ideas, lots of possibilities, lots of solutions.
Mm-hmm. And you know, there's people who can look at a problem and immediately think of 10 different ways to solve it. That's ADHD.
And ADHD brain set tend to, if they're not burnt out and exhausted,
Yep.
and they're allowed to, they're always exploring, novelty seeking, constantly asking the questions with that real curiosity. What if?
Yes.
What about that? Have we tried this?
And genuinely,
Yes.
not just a like sort of kind of hand in the air. What if we did something else? It's a real, genuine,
Spark of an idea.
absolutely. Can we talk about ADHD and entrepreneurship? Because this is huge. If you look across at CEOs of the multi-billion-dollar companies, I'm convinced that they're all neurodiverse.
Makes a lot of sense.
I'm not a fan of Elon Musk, but that's an autistic man walking.
We have to own that one, yes.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, unfortunately, he's one of us. I mean, there's been a lot of talk of all of the people in Silicon Valley. They're like, we all have autism and ADHD,
Well, they
right?
talk about the TISM.
The tism, a touch of the tism. So, because every second founder I meet, ADHD.
And you can
ADHD.
see that innovation, risk tolerance,
Yep.
adaptability, fast decision making.
Yep.
These are the strengths that you see with ADHD.
Exact. And so this is what's so funny. The same person who loses their keys 5 times a week can build $1 million company. And that feels very ADHD.
And that's what we really want to bring in, that looking at is the strengths and the challenges coming from exactly the same neurological wiring.
Which is incredible. Um, hyperfocus. People misunderstand hyperfocus so much. When they hear attention deficit, they assume inability to focus.
But it's not about lacking attention completely. It's actually about
Mm.
being able to regulate, or and people with ADHD need to be much more interested in something for their attention to be able to hook on to it.
Yeah.
And once it does, though, then that focus becomes extraordinary.
Yeah. And
And
then
then
you have the time blindness.
absolutely, hours disappear, forgetting to eat, forgetting to drink.
Yeah.
And then in autism, we've got, the monotropic thinking,
Yes.
which is, again, a very intense state of concentration on a particular topic.
I definitely get into that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. It's obsessive. Now, this is my favorite because this is my neurotype. This is also Dr. Dom's neurotype. ADHD. Beautiful chaos. Beautiful chaos. So, otherwise known as I need routine and I hate routine at exactly the same time.
Yeah, so like Hannah said, ADHD is the one we both live every day. And there's just a lot of emerging understanding about this being a different neurotype.
Can we just mention that it wasn't able to be diagnosed until 2013? Which
Yeah,
is
up to that,
insane.
DSM actually excluded the possibility of both existing in one person. Now we're looking at 30 to 40%
Yeah.
people with autism will have attentional differences.
Yeah,
as
you got
well.
autism, maybe get a screening for ADHD. You got ADHD, maybe get an autism screening.
And how, it just makes such a difference to understand both sides of your
It
brain.
really does.
I'm really looking forward to I've got a webinar coming up, hearing about all the latest things that's going on in this area. So I look forward to
That's so
sharing.
exciting. So my experience is this is so true. One half of my brain, let's build a spreadsheet, and let me tell you, nothing gets me off like a good Excel spreadsheet. My God, I love it. But then there's also the other side of my brain that's like, what if we moved to Italy? We could move to Italy today, couldn't we? I could take my spreadsheets, Tommy.
Obviously.
Now,
What?
creativity.
Yeah. So, again, we don't want to go into the negative, but there does tend to be this idea of autism and creativity not going together. But creativity,
People do think that, don't they?
well, and of course now, how many musicians, how many actors, how
I
many people
mean,
in the
yeah,
creative
yeah.
industries are coming out, coming out. It's a funny way of wording it, but we do.
But that is the reality, and I
Yeah.
have had people say to me, "I'm not ready to come out as
Yeah.
neurodiverse,"
Yeah.
and I, let them sit with that. It's their own personal journey. It's their brain.
Yep.
Let them come out when they're ready.
That's right. Because, the reality of late diagnosis is that at some point
It's a journey.
you start wanting to share your identity with others or not. Very
And
much your personal preference.
yeah, and we are very pro people having their own autonomy regarding whatever they're doing with their,
Yes.
with their brain and their neurotype.
So let's look. Creativity is not just about doing a painting. It's the ability to connect ideas in a new way, to see new relationships between things, to imagine different alternatives. And this is exactly what we see in neurodivergence.
Yeah, so that's why so many innovations come from people who don't think conventionally, because the goal was never to think like everybody else. The goal was to see what everybody else missed. Gifts?
Yes.
The gifts we don't talk about enough. And remember, guys, this is just a positive episode about all the incredible things about the neurodiverse brain.
And these are the strengths that I see every day, clinically, personally, the
Yes.
honesty, the passion, loyalty, deep loyalty,
Loyalty's a really, really big one, I find.
justice sensitivity.
Oof, yeah.
We probably need a whole episode on that one.
That one is, yeah, because it makes life quite distressing when you're seeing things that you know are unjust, and you're like,
But you wouldn't want it any other way.
like
Not see,
that's
not
true.
fee.
I
Yeah.
would never take it away,
Yeah.
but it does make it hard because you want to be able to do something.
Yes. the curiosity, empathy,
Mm.
creativity, courage, so many different aspects.
Yeah, and you're right, justice sensitivity. Whole episode. I think a lot of people are very unaware about what justice sensitivity is. But neurodivergent people are often physically incapable of ignoring unfairness.
It's unignorable. It's just so deep.
The amount of times that I will intervene in unfair situations that it's really not my place. I will just insert myself into a conversation or whatever's happening and be like, "You shut up." It's not, I can't help myself. I can't stop it. I wish I could.
So I hope this has been, just bringing in the positivity that we're feeling when we talk about all of these different strengths, what we see every day.
I mean, I smile whenever I talk about it.
Yes. My favorite thing at the moment is that's delightfully autistic.
Yeah.
And it is. It's with a smile on my face. It's looking with joy.
When I do something that's so autistic, I'm like, wow, that was autistic. Depends whether it was a good thing or a bad thing. But yeah, I'm like, that was a beautiful autistic moment. I've been doing a lot of writing lately.
Yeah.
8,000 words yesterday. I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
that was beautifully autistic. Okay, so what happens when strengths meet the right environment?
And that's, really what we want to bring in after talking about these strengths that exist. They don't just exist in vacuum. They need that environment. Like Hannah said, that pot plant. How do
Yeah, it's a very obvious analogy.
Yes. But
So,
people, these gifts and strengths emerge in environments that support them.
yeah, a child who's constantly moving can become an elite athlete, a brilliant surgeon, a paramedic, a performer.
An autistic child fascinated by maps might become an engineer or
Absolutely.
an urban planner, scientists, researchers.
And I'm just gonna throw this one in here because if you're if you are currently a doctor working in medicine, heads up, I think you're neurodiverse.
That's
You
a very sweeping statement, but we are
you
definitely opening our eyes to
you're
this
the
one and looking
you're
at
the
the
doctor, so
specialties
you
where it's
can't
so
say,
helpful.
"These are my general observations." Domi has to be careful with what she says because she is a clinical psychiatrist. She is a doctor. I, on the other hand, get to free ball and just make my random assumptions. But if you're working in medicine, the first thing I think is, I wonder if you're autistic. I actually did get the opportunity to ask a male doctor,
Yes?
at what age do you think men develop empathy? He did not get the joke.
Oh, no.
To be fair, was a bit off, but I said 25. Do you think it's 25? And he just gave me he blanked me, but
But medicine, so many other areas, how wonderful is it to be able to,
musicians, if
bring your special
if you're a
interest
musician
into actually helping others?
if you're a musician, I'm like, you're neurodiverse.
They're we're now recognizing that so much.
And the difference isn't the child, the difference is whether the environment recognizes the potential. So,
And next pod, Hannah, let's talk about this. What the right environment actually
yes.
is, because right now, part of what's skewing society's view about what neurodivergence is seeing absolutely beautiful humans who've been traumatized by misunderstanding, who
Mm.
haven't had the opportunity to learn the skills that
Yep.
allow them to really express their amazing strengths out there.
Yeah.
And this is what we're about. This is Neurocon wants to see that change.
Can I tell you that when I had a big lunch with guests recently,
Yes.
I obviously speak about neurodiversity so much and in such a positive way. There was 12 adults at a table. Two of them put their hands up to go, I've got OCD. Like, can we talk about it? And I was like,
Yeah.
heck yeah, we can. And one of the women was like, I just got diagnosed with ADHD. And, she's in her 50s or 60s. And she's like, can we talk about it? I'm like, heck yeah, we can. I'm like, this is a neurodiverse safe space.
Yeah.
So, finishing with a thought, imagine a child who is growing up and being neurodiverse and hearing your brain is not broken, your brain is not wrong, your brain is not less, it's different and different has value.
And, I'm careful about what I share about my child. He's got his own
I know,
privacy and his
yep.
own world, but, I got that question only a week ago.
Yes.
"Mummy, why do I have ADHD?"
God, it's such a deep question.
And just being able to answer that I can imagine how that question would have been answered 10, 20 years ago.
Mm.
And instead, I was able to bring in all of this, talk to him about the strengths, talk to him about, what it means in just it was a great conversation.
It was a really great conversation.
Yeah.
I'm not there with my child yet. He's not asking these
Yeah.
questions. He's still a lot younger. And he's also pure autism.
Yeah.
I mean, I will have him evaluated at some point, but I don't see any ADHD
Yeah,
in him.
not much.
I think he's a pure autism. Um, but
And
I
and let's just clarify, language is emerging in this area at the moment, but as Hannah and I, we're living this, we're talking about it all the time. It is very much we talk about pure autism where there's very little attentional differences. Then we're
yeah.
talking about the Audis, the AU ADHDs,
Yeah, yeah.
and then the pure ADHD
Yeah.
because, they are all really different.
It's completely different. So, do you want to go with the goal isn't for everyone to think the same?
Yeah, that's where we want to see things change. That rather than seeing, these conditions, autism, ADHD, as diseases that we want to treat or prevent.
Don't call it I hate when I hear it's a
Or I can
disease.
hardly say it now.
It makes me feel
It's
sick.
actually hard to say out
My
loud.
brain isn't diseased, Joel.
No. And, we want to actually look back and see how much of human progress is always dependent on people who think differently. How much more openness there was in the past as well
How much
to
beautiful, yeah.
accepting difference in thinking
Yeah.
before it all got pathologized. Look at those inventors, look at the artists, the scientists, the people who looked at the world and said, what about a different way?
And chances are many of those people would be diagnosed autistic, ADHD, Audi, dyslexic, gifted, or some combo of all the above if they'd been born today. I mean, we know Bill Gates recently came out and said
Yeah.
that, he's like, I would have been diagnosed as autistic in today's society.
So many
It's
people doing that,
just, yeah,
recognizing that now. And neurodiversity, it's not a bug in humanity that we need to clear out. It's a
no.
feature. It's a part of who we are.
And thank God for that, because if everybody thought the same way, the world would be incredibly boring
Absolutely.
and much less innovative. All right, so thank you everybody for listening today. If nobody has told you lately, your brain might be different and the world needs different. So we'll see you next time. Bye, Tommy.
Bye bye, Hannah.